The busy streets of Los Angeles were alive with the hum of activity as the sun dipped lower into the horizon, casting a golden glow across the city. Among the crowd bustling about was a young girl named Amara, standing near a street corner with a basket of fresh flowers. At just 14 years old, she had been working tirelessly every day after school, selling flowers to help support her family. Her hands were small but calloused, a testament to the hours spent preparing bouquets with love and care. Amara wasn't just any girl. She had an air of quiet resilience, a strength that shone through her bright, determined eyes. Each flower in her basket symbolized her hope, not just for her family's survival, but for her own dream, to one day become a botanist. But life hadn't been easy for Amara. Living in a modest apartment with her mother and younger brother, she carried the weight of their struggles on her shoulders. It was on this particular evening that fate decided to intervene in the most unexpected way. Amara's spot at the intersection was a prime location, frequented by office workers, tourists, and locals alike. Yet, as much as she smiled and tried to catch the attention of passers-by, business had been slow. She hadn't sold a single bouquet all afternoon. "Flowers! Fresh flowers!" she called out, her voice carrying a tone of hope, even as exhaustion tugged at her spirit. But people walked by, too engrossed in their own lives to notice the young girl standing in the corner. Her gaze fell on a sleek silver car that had just pulled up to the curb, a Tesla. Amara had seen plenty of expensive cars drive by, but this one was different. The driver's door opened, and out stepped a man who looked oddly familiar. He was tall, with short cropped hair and a casual yet sharp demeanor. Amara blinked, realizing she was looking at none other than Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur known around the world for revolutionizing technology and space exploration. Elon Musk, dressed in a simple black t-shirt and jeans, seemed like an ordinary man in the moment. He had parked the car to take a walk, perhaps to clear his mind after a long day of meetings and decisions that would shape the future. He noticed Amara almost immediately. She wasn't shouting anymore. She simply stood there, holding her basket tightly, her nerves getting the best of her. Amara hesitated. Was this her chance? Should she approach him? But what would she even say? Before she could decide, Elon walked toward her. His curious expression softened as he noticed the weary look on her face and the basket of unsold flowers in her hands. "Are you selling these?" he asked, his tone kind but straightforward. Amara nodded quickly, her voice barely audible. "Yes, sir. They're fresh. I just picked them this morning." Elon looked down at the flowers, then back at the girl. "How much for a bouquet?" Her heart skipped a beat. No one had bought anything all day, and now one of the richest men in the world was asking about her flowers. "They're $10 each," she managed to say, her voice trembling slightly. Elon smiled and pulled out his wallet. "I'll take one." He handed her a crisp $50 bill. "But I don't have enough change," Amara stammered, holding the bill in her hands like it was made of gold. "Keep the change," Elon replied casually, taking a bouquet and examining the flowers. "They're beautiful. Did you arrange these yourself?" "Yes, sir," she said, a shy smile breaking through. "I've been selling flowers since I was 9. My mom taught me how to make bouquets." Elon's curiosity was piqued. 9? That's a young age to start working. Why flowers? Amara hesitated, unsure if she should share the truth with a stranger, but something about Elon's demeanor put her at ease. "We needed the money," she admitted. "My dad passed away when I was little, so it's just my mom, my brother, and me. Flowers are something we can afford to grow ourselves." Elon listened intently, his face thoughtful. He was no stranger to hardship himself, having grown up in South Africa and worked his way up through relentless determination and risk-taking. Something about Amara's story resonated with him deeply. "You're very resourceful," he said after a moment. "And brave. Not everyone would stand out here doing what you're doing." Amara blushed at the compliment, but she quickly looked away. "It's not bravery," she murmured. "It's just what I have to do." Elon studied her for a moment longer before nodding. Sometimes, doing what you have to do is the bravest thing of all. As he walked away with the bouquet in hand, Amara watched him, unsure if she'd just had a chance encounter with someone extraordinary or if it was all in her head. Little did she know, the moment would mark the beginning of a life-changing series of events that would test not only her resilience, but also the kindness of a man who had the power to transform her world. The next morning, Amara was back at her usual spot, her basket filled with fresh flowers, as the early sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Her encounter with Elon Musk the evening before felt like a dream, an unreal moment that lingered in her mind. She had told her mother about it, but they'd both laughed it off. After all, what could possibly come of it? He was a billionaire, and she was just a girl selling flowers on the street. But the day was different from the start. More people stopped to admire her bouquets, and she made a few sales early in the morning. Yet something was off. Amara noticed a sleek black car parked across the street, its tinted windows making it impossible to see who was inside. The car had been there for a while, and though she tried to shake off the unease, her curiosity grew. By mid-afternoon, the car door finally opened, and a man in a sharp suit stepped out. He was tall, with an air of authority that immediately caught Amara's attention. The man walked directly toward her, his expression unreadable, carrying a sense of purpose. "Are you Amara?" he asked, his voice formal but polite. She nodded, clutching her basket tightly. "Yes, sir. Can I help you?" The man reached into his pocket and handed her a business card. "My name is Charles, and I work for Mr. Elon Musk. He asked me to find you." Amara's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the card, then back at the man. "Why would he want to find me?" Charles smiled faintly. "He was impressed by you. Your story, your determination, it stuck with him. He'd like to meet you again, but this time at one of his offices. Can you come tomorrow?" Amara's mind raced. She wasn't sure if she should feel excited or nervous. I don't know," she stammered. "I have to help my mom and—" Charles held up a hand to stop her. "Mr. Musk understands your responsibilities, but he believes this meeting could be important for you and your family. He wanted me to assure you that transportation will be arranged and your time won't be wasted." Amara hesitated, the weight of her reality clashing with the hope this opportunity seemed to offer. But something in her heart told her to say yes. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll come." The next day, a car arrived at her modest apartment to pick her up. Amara wore her best dress, a simple, clean outfit her mother had helped her prepare. Her younger brother Daniel clung to her side, curious but proud of his sister. "You're going to meet a billionaire," he whispered, his eyes wide with awe. The car ride felt like a journey to another world. Amara had never been inside such a luxurious vehicle before, and as they pulled up to the Tesla headquarters, she couldn't help but marvel at the sleek architecture and bustling energy of the place. Inside, she was greeted by Charles, who led her through the grand lobby and up to an executive floor. As they walked, employees glanced curiously at her, some smiling warmly. She felt out of place, but held her head high, determined to face whatever awaited her. Finally, they reached a large conference room with glass walls overlooking the city. Inside, Elon Musk was seated at a table, his attention on a tablet. When he saw her, he stood and smiled. "Amara," he said warmly, gesturing for her to sit. "Thank you for coming." She nodded, her nerves threatening to overwhelm her. "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Musk." "Call me Elon," he said with a chuckle. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation the other day. You mentioned your family and how you've been working since you were 9. That kind of determination is rare, especially at your age." Amara looked down, unsure how to respond. "It's just what I have to do," she said softly. Elon leaned forward, his expression serious. "That's exactly what impressed me. People who work hard to improve their lives and the lives of others deserve support. I want to help you, Amara. But first, tell me, what's your dream? If you could do anything, what would it be?" Her eyes widened at the question. No one had ever asked her that before, not even her own family. I want to be a botanist, she said hesitantly. I love plants and flowers. I want to study them and maybe even discover new ones someday. Elon nodded, his eyes lighting up. That's an incredible goal, and I think you'll achieve it. But you shouldn't have to struggle as much as you have been. So here's what I'd like to do. He paused, letting the moment sink in before continuing. Amara held her breath, unsure of what he was about to say, but sensing that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't have imagined. Elon leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady as he explained his plan. First, I want to make sure you and your family are taken care of. You mentioned how hard your mother works and how much you contribute. That's admirable, but you shouldn't have to carry such a heavy burden at your age. So, I'll be covering your family's living expenses for the next few years. Amara gasped, her eyes widening. You don't have to do that, Mr. Musk. We manage just fine. Elon shook his head with a kind smile. It's not about whether you manage or not. It's about giving you the chance to focus on your future without worrying about survival. Your potential is immense, and I want to ensure it's not wasted. She blinked back tears, overwhelmed by his generosity. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. There's more, he continued, his tone turning serious. I've already spoken to some contacts at top universities and botanical institutions. If you're willing, I'd like to sponsor your education. You mentioned wanting to be a botanist. That requires training, resources, and connections. I'll cover your tuition and any additional costs to ensure you have every opportunity to succeed. Amara's heart raced. It felt like a dream, like one of those fairy tales she used to read to her little brother before bed. She had never imagined someone as important as Elon Musk would care about her dreams, let alone invest in them. But, she began hesitantly, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough to make the most of this? Elon leaned forward, his expression firm but encouraging. The only failure is not trying. I didn't always succeed in my ventures, Amara. I've faced setbacks, doubts, and even ridicule. But every mistake taught me something, and every challenge made me stronger. You have the passion and the drive. That's what matters. Amara nodded slowly, absorbing his words. For the first time, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was capable of more than she had allowed herself to imagine. As the conversation continued, Elon asked about her family's struggles, her favorite flowers, and her hopes for the future. Amara spoke openly, feeling a sense of comfort she hadn't expected. It was as though she were talking to an old friend rather than one of the most powerful men in the world. After an hour, Elon stood and offered her a handshake. I'll have my team contact you with the next steps, but for now, go home and tell your mother not to worry about the rent this month, or any month for a while. And don't forget to dream big, Amara. The world needs more people like you. As she left the office, her mind swirled with emotions, gratitude, disbelief, and a newfound sense of hope. The ride home felt like a blur, and when she walked through the door of her small apartment, her mother and brother greeted her eagerly, their faces full of curiosity. What happened? How was it? Her mother asked, concern and excitement mingling in her tone. Amara struggled to find the words. He's going to help us. He's paying for everything, Mom. Rent, school, everything. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Why would he do that? Amara smiled, her voice trembling. Because he believes in me. He thinks I can do something great. That night, the family sat together, dreaming of a brighter future. Amara's little brother, Daniel, whispered as he fell asleep. You're going to be famous, Amara, just like Elon Musk. She laughed softly, tucking him in. Not famous, she murmured. Just happy. But deep down, she knew her life had changed forever. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she could achieve everything she had ever dreamed of, and more. Amara walked back home that evening in a daze, her thoughts swirling with disbelief and excitement. The meeting with Elon Musk had felt like a surreal dream, one she feared might vanish if she pinched herself too hard. But the folded check in her pocket and his kind words replaying in her mind assured her it was all very real. The soft evening light painted the city in hues of orange and gold as she reached her small, run-down apartment building. Her little brother Daniel was waiting by the window, his face lighting up when he saw her approach. "Amara! Amara's home!" he shouted, running to open the door. Their mother, Sarah, appeared behind him, her face weary but lit with a faint smile. She had been working double shifts to keep their household afloat, and though she tried to hide her exhaustion, Amara could see the toll it was taking. "How was it, honey?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with both concern and curiosity. Amara hesitated, unsure of how to begin. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the folded piece of paper. "Mom, you won't believe this." Daniel jumped up, trying to peek over her shoulder. "What is it? Did you get a new flower job?" "It's not a job," Amara said, her voice trembling. She handed the check to her mother, who gasped as she unfolded it. "Rent?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide as she read the number written on it. "For a year? Amara, this is more than I make in months." "Mom, it's not just the rent," Amara said, tears welling in her eyes. She explained everything: Elon Musk's interest in her flowers, his offer to sponsor her education, and his promise to help their family. As she spoke, her mother's hand flew to her mouth, and tears began streaming down her face. "Why would he do this for us?" Sarah whispered, overwhelmed. Amara smiled faintly. "Because he believes in people who try, Mom. He said he saw something in me, and he wanted to help. I think he just cares." The room fell silent for a moment as the weight of it all sank in. Then, Daniel broke the silence with a shout. "We're rich now?" he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Amara laughed, pulling him into a hug. "Not rich, silly, but we don't have to worry about the landlord for a long time." For the first time in years, their home was filled with a sense of relief and hope. Sarah wiped her tears and pulled both her children into a tight embrace. "I don't know what we did to deserve this, but we'll make the most of it, Amara. I'm so proud of you." The next day, Amara received a call from Elon's team. They outlined the details of her educational sponsorship and invited her to tour a prestigious university's botany department. She felt a flutter of nervous excitement as she realized how quickly her life was changing. When she arrived at the university a week later, she was greeted by a team of professors and researchers who were eager to meet her. They had heard about her flower business and were impressed by her self-taught knowledge. One professor, Dr. Claire Walters, took a particular interest in Amara's story. "You've done more with limited resources than some of our students do with full access to labs and libraries," she said, smiling warmly. "I can't wait to see what you'll achieve here." Amara felt a mixture of pride and humility. She walked through the labs, the greenhouses, and the classrooms, imagining herself as a student there. It all felt so far removed from the streets where she used to sell flowers, but at the same time, it felt right, like she was finally where she was meant to be. Elon Musk remained in touch, occasionally checking in on her progress. He even visited her family one evening, much to Daniel's delight. The young boy couldn't stop asking Elon questions about rockets and Mars, and Elon answered each one with patience and humor. The visit was a turning point for Sarah as well. She had been hesitant to accept help from a stranger, but seeing Elon interact with her children and hearing his vision for the future reassured her. "Thank you," she said quietly as Elon prepared to leave. "Not just for the money, but for believing in Amara. You've given us more than just a financial lifeline. You've given us hope." Elon smiled. "Amara gave me hope too. Her determination reminds me why I do what I do. It's all about creating opportunities for people like her." As he left, Amara stood by the window, watching the taillights of his car fade into the distance. She felt a sense of gratitude so profound it left her speechless. Her life had been transformed in ways she never thought possible. And for the first time in years, she looked to the future not with fear, but with excitement and determination. Months turned into years. and Amara's life blossomed in ways she could never have imagined. She excelled in her studies, quickly becoming one of the top students in her botany program. Her professors often praised her for her creativity and resourcefulness, traits that had been honed during her years selling flowers on the streets. Elon Musk continued to mentor her from afar, occasionally sending her books or inviting her to events where she could meet other inspiring individuals. He never treated her like a charity case. Instead, he saw her as a partner in shaping a better future. One of the most significant moments came during her final year of university when Amara presented a groundbreaking project on sustainable urban gardening. Her idea was to create small, modular gardens that could thrive even in the poorest urban neighborhoods, providing fresh produce and flowers for communities in need. Her presentation drew the attention of investors and philanthropists, including Elon Musk himself, who offered to fund a pilot program. "You're not just helping yourself anymore, Amara," he said with a proud smile. "You're helping the world." The pilot program was a massive success. Within months, Amara's modular gardens began popping up in underserved neighborhoods across the city. Communities came together to tend to the gardens, creating a sense of unity and purpose. Amara's family was deeply involved as well. Her mother, Sarah, became an advocate for the program, using her story to inspire others. "If someone like us can rise above hardships," she often said during community meetings, "then so can anyone." Daniel, now a teenager, had taken a keen interest in engineering and often worked on the mechanical components of the modular gardens. "Someday I'm going to build something even bigger than Elon Musk," he joked, earning a laugh from his sister. Amara's work began gaining recognition on a national level. She was invited to speak at conferences, featured in magazines, and even interviewed on television. Despite her growing fame, she remained grounded, always crediting her success to the lessons she had learned on the streets and the people who had believed in her. One day, she received an invitation to an exclusive gala hosted by Elon Musk. It was a celebration of innovation and progress, attended by some of the brightest minds in the world. Amara felt a wave of nervousness as she walked into the grand hall, but that quickly faded when she spotted Elon. He greeted her warmly, introducing her to the other guests as one of the brightest young innovators he'd ever met. "Amara's work is proof that determination and creativity can change the world," he said, raising a toast in her honor. Amara looked around the room, overwhelmed by the support and admiration she was receiving. She realized that her journey had come full circle, from a girl selling flowers on the streets to a leader inspiring change on a global scale. As the night went on, she found herself standing by the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Elon joined her, a glass of champagne in hand. "You've come a long way," he said, his tone both proud and reflective. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied. He shook his head. "You would have found a way, Amara. All I did was give you a little push. The rest was all you." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared journey settling between them. "I want to do more," Amara said finally, "for people like me, for people who just need a chance. I want to make sure no one else has to struggle like we did." Elon smiled. "Then let's make it happen." With those words, Amara knew her journey was far from over. It wasn't just about her success anymore. It was about creating opportunities for others, just as someone had once done for her. The story of Amara and Elon Musk became a beacon of hope for countless others, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness and belief could change lives in ways no one could predict.